Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. We're starting our morning with watches, and everything you see here is in stock and for sale. If you see something you love, reach out. Even if it's just a friendly inquiry, we love to talk watches. Reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions. So we're starting off with a 2021 evolution of a model launched in 2016. This is the Omega Constellation Globemaster annual calendar. What's new for 2021? Well, this lovely metallic brushed green dial. The case itself, 41 millimeters with steel case and tungsten carbide bezel, came out with the Globemaster annual calendar back in 2016. In the year prior, the original Globemaster marked the return of the legendary pie pan to the Constellation collection after years of the Griffin Claws and the Manhattans, which are well loved and they have their fans, but a lot of traditionalists wanted a pie pan Connie in the collection, and with the Globemaster we got that. The way it works as an annual calendar is that we have the date and we have the month, 12 hours, 12 months. Each one of these pie pan-like facets both calling back to the 1950s original and providing a slot for 1 month. So 12 hours, 12 months. You have a quick set system that allows you to rapidly cycle the date and then rapidly cycle the month. And this being an annual calendar, you only have to make one adjustment per year during the jump from February to March. 41 millimeters in diameter. You can see it's a large watch. It's also 100 meters water resistant, which means it is surprisingly versatile for a dress style complication. It's big. I would say if your wrist is my size or larger, game on. So 16 centimeters circumference and up, you're going to find this is a really good fit. If your wrist is smaller, go with one of the 39 millimeter Globemasters. Taking a look at the reverse side, they want you to remind yourself and your friends that the original Constellation in 1952 was an observatory chronometer. This is somewhat more than that. This is a master chronometer, so tested to and beyond COSC standards, as it's a 6-position chronometry test as a fully cased-up watch, not a bare movement, also including water resistance, power reserve, winding efficiency, durability, and anti-magnetism to over 15,000 Gauss, effectively making this an anti-magnetic watch that is amagnetic in practice. Taking a quick look, there's no shortage of luminescence. A really cool watch. Folding clasp, alligator leather strap, a wonderful way to get into the world of high-end complications and super high-end chronometry with a timepiece that's durable enough and versatile enough to use every single day. If you want a green dial, but a full bracelet, and your budget is a bit more flexible, Moser of Schaffhausen has something for you. So H. Moser & C, back in 2020, launched the Streamliner series, and initially, this was their first integrated bracelet steel sports watch, marketed with a matrix green dial out of the gate. The Streamliner Center Seconds was nicknamed the Green Dragon. Well, this is not that watch. This is actually a 2024 revisitation of the original design, now with a ghosted brand in clear lacquer on the dial and a new aesthetically upgraded HMC 201 movement. So the watch is 40 millimeters in diameter. It's about 46.1 if we measure one link to its opposite number on each side of the case, 12.5 millimeters thick, so it's reasonably slim. If you've seen the Tourbillon, if you've seen the Perpetual Calendar, if you've seen the Flyback Chronograph, this wears better than all those. This is a smaller watch. This would wear well on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and you can see how nicely it fits my 16 centimeter wrist, even over the top, which exaggerates the width of a watch. You can see the lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist. We have that lovely matrix green. Let me remove that little piece of fuzz. So it's a combination of a metallic sunburst with lacquer to create that gradient green fade, polished indices. The hands have Global Light, a ceramic-based lume that is quite luminescent. We'll take a look at that now. Screw-down crown, 120 meters of water resistance. The watch also features a hacking seconds function, so you could set it precisely to a reference time. The bracelet is beautifully made. You can see no daylight through these links. They are incredibly tight in tolerance, precisely made and intricately decorated. This is one of the best bracelets in its class. And I like the fact that you could probably name 5 or 6 different watches to which this watch pays homage, but it doesn't plagiarize any of them, the way a lot of modern integrated bracelet watches are so obviously a ripoff of a Nautilus or a Royal Oak or a Laureato or a 222 or a Jumbo Ingenieur. This manages to be a unique and original statement by Moser. Moser, a fun brand. The CEO, his brother, very accessible on social media, super friendly. And then the movement, 32 millimeters in diameter, made by Moser in-house. Caliber 201 nicely fills out this case back. Bidirectional automatic winding with a lever-based system, similar to Magic Lever. It's got a 72-hour power reserve. It's got a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance for better shock resistance. And what really sets this 201 apart from the old 200 is that it is bigger and more open. Well, maybe not bigger. It looks bigger because we have this fully skeletonized rotor, which allows us to see the works, nickel anthracite coating on the bridges and the plate, which gives them a nice dark aesthetic, and then skeletonization allowing us to see the drivetrain and the winding train. So although it's the same 32 millimeters as the 200, the 201 just looks cooler. You also have this little gold infill in all the jewel sinks to make it look like they are 19th century style golden chaton jeweled cups. Moser making the escapement, the hairspring, and the free-sprung balance in-house deeply impressive, as even many accomplished manufacturers cannot make their own hairsprings and regulators. We're going to stick with steel in the bracelet, but let's talk about what may be the least acknowledged era of Vacheron Constantin's overseas sports watches, and that is the first generation, made from 1996 to 2003, but the chronograph only debuted in 1999. So finding one of these 49140s can be quite a scavenger hunt. Now, many of them were made in gold, so steel is even a little bit more exclusive. And then the dial, here the military dial with Arabic numerals, also highly sought and much smaller than subsequent overseas chronographs. This is 40 millimeters and 12.6 millimeters thick. The dial features the double-digit date that was present on the first and second generation chronographs, but sadly not on the third. The bracelet is incredibly intricate, mirror finished on the inside. I believe more time was spent finishing this first generation bracelet and crafting its parts than even on the third generation's feature-rich bracelet. So you can see internally, we have two different things. We have a sliding lock, and then we have a clamshell to keep it closed. So it's a double locking clasp. Once again, you can see the mirror finishing on the inside of the bracelet, and everything here feels very substantial. You can see the twin channels down the center line of the bracelet. 150 meters water resistant, so a true aquatic watch. And on the back, the image of the Italian naval training vessel Amerigo Vespucci. That is the likeness basis for the ship on the back of the first and second generation overseas. Inside, mechanically, it's the same as the Royal Oak chronograph from the same period and the second generation overseas chronograph. This is the Frederic Piguet 1185, a very thin, fine, integrated column wheel vertical clutch automatic chronograph movement, originally created by Frederic Piguet for Blancpain during the 1980s. There's a quick set for the date. You've got the smooth engagement of the vertical clutch, so the chronograph seconds hand isn't going to jump around. You've got the column wheel for crisp pusher feel, and a very thin movement. It's only about 5.5 millimeters thick despite being a chronograph. 5 position adjusted, nicely decorated, 40-hour power reserve. The watch wears well, and once again, if you do have a smaller wrist, the second and third generation overseas chronos might be a bit of a challenge. This one wears quite nicely. I would say it wears a lot like a Rolex Daytona on a bracelet. So if you're familiar with that and you can wear that, you can wear this. I love the little pyramid style hour indices on the dial. Let's do a quick loom shot so you can see this one in the dark. No shortage there. Okay, dress watch time. And I've got a great one. So Schwarz Etienne, for much of its century-plus existence, has been what's called a white label manufacturer. You call them, they make your watch or your movement, and then they ship it out with your name on it. But In recent decades, really only the last decade and a half, Schwarz has focused on making watches under its own name. They still do the contract work, but now they have tried to build their name as a luxury purveyor of fine watches in their own right. But they didn't quite strike lightning, or I should say strike gold and catch lightning in a bottle, until 2021, when their Roma model was customized by Kari Voutilainen to create the limited edition Roma Synergy by Kari Voutilainen. So this is in that tradition. This is actually a 2023 39mm steel edition of 10, created by Schwarz, Etienne, and Voutilainen for Goldsmith and Complications, Delray Beach, Florida watch dealers. This is a 10-piece limited edition with a sterling silver dial cut on traditional lathes by Voutilainen's Complemine Cadran, which is his dial company. So we have what they describe as pink-purple with a rosette pattern, a wave pattern, and a fish scale pattern. We have Longines hands in fired blue steel, tri-Arabic numerals, incredible intricacy and quality to the cut of this dial. And then you can see only 44.9 millimeters lug to lug, so everyone can wear it well. The strap, factory original, white calfskin with a blue stitch. Throw it on the wrist, very comfortable, and a good fit on a small wrist. If you are a traditionalist on size, if you have a smaller wrist, if you're a woman who likes purely mechanical watches, no diamonds, no quartz, no gold, no frills, this is the real deal for smaller wrists, and it will fit beautifully. It'll even fit underneath a cuff. Double deployant, trigger-actuated clasp, and one might even argue that the back is more exciting than the dial. So here we have the ASC 200. It's a Schwarz Etienne manufacture movement. By that, I mean even the escapement, the hairspring, and the balance is theirs. It does feature hacking seconds. You can see their unique balance design. But Voutilainen's Atelier, so Atelier Voutilainen, is the movement manufacturer. Complemine is the dial company. Voutilainen et Catin is the case maker. But you can see this movement has been customized by Atelier Voutilainen. So starting with the bridges, all of them receive a rosette guilloche. You can also see that on their edges, we have mirrored anglage at the highest level. We have a little rose gold plate, satinated, beveled, and lacquered to let you know who did the work. The rotor has been finished 3 times. Mirrored beveling, a satin channel around the edge, and then the recess is media blast. We have mirror finishing on the click spring and the click, and then this incredible ratchet wheel, which features a mirrored recess at center, solarization on its top, and then we'll get close. Hopefully you can see that the individual teeth of the ratchet wheel have been micro-beveled. It is an accomplished movement. Automatic winding with a micro rotor, 86 hours of power reserve, hacking seconds, in-house regulator, and a fairly large movement at 30.4 millimeters in diameter. It winds nicely, it sets beautifully. An in-house caliber that you'll see on super high-end watches. It is something that here, customized by Voutilainen, is probably featured in its highest state of finish in any of its applications. And you can see, though it is a dress watch, 50 meters of water resistance is a little bit more than you standard expect on a dress watch. Normally a dress watch is 30, this is 50. Still don't swim with it, but more is always better, and it's nice to get that here. This is a very unusual thing, because this is the de Bethune DB27 Titan Hawk V1, the original model made from 2012 to 2018 when the V2 took over. But what really sets this apart is that it includes fired blue titanium, something generally reserved only for the DB28s. You might even call this not two-tone, but tie-tone, as both the lugs and the case are made of grade 5 titanium, but the blue is achieved by fire oxidizing the lugs themselves. So we have polished titanium grade 5 and fired titanium grade 5. These are 47.7 to 51 millimeter lugs. So at full extension, 51 millimeters across. Maximum compression, these ergonomic lugs are 47.7, and surprisingly, it's only around 12 millimeters thick. We'll throw it on my wrist. I can tell you all in rubber, sapphire, and titanium. A very light watch that's easy to wear. We have this sports style de Bethune rubber strap on it. It wears nicely on my wrist. Easy to see, easy to read, and a much more deluxe watch than the Titan Hawk V2. We'll move away so you have a better sense of it in proportion. 43 millimeters in diameter. It's thinner than you think. The movement on the back is the S233. So whereas the V2 has a center seconds hand, the V1 has a deltoid date indicator that does have a quick set. You can see it's a radial date. De Bethune making case, dial, and movement in-house, and very rare watches. De Bethune has only built about 4,100 watches as of April 2024, and it still makes under 400 a year. Remember, Rolex about 1.2, 1.3 million a year, Journe about 1,000 a year, De Bethune less than 400, and they make every part of it. We have a microlight engraving, so this is a lathe reductive guilloche that's more modern than a rosette. So Denis Flageolet, the watchmaking co-founder of the brand, still in charge today, wanted a reductive guilloche that didn't look antique on his watches, and this was the solution. Also note that this is a monoblock case. There's no seam between bezel and case. Everything loads through the back, so you can have this seamless transition from case flank to bezel without any kind of break between the surfaces. Turn it all over. You could see the rotor, 6-day power reserve, automatic winding. The Titan Hawk V2 only has a 60-hour reserve. This is 6 days, which is one of the reasons I often tell people, if you can swing a V1, go with a V1. You can also see the company's 2010 patent balance. De Bethune has 10 distinct patented balances. This one is my favorite. It's a solid disc of silicon, which looks cool, with a full annular white gold rim. So the idea here is to reduce the impact of temperature and magnetism on the balance, and reduce the impact of aerodynamic drag on timing, and maximize the percentage of total mass in the rim. All that is achieved here. I will say it's very difficult to see if it's running because there are no asymmetrical reference points. So you look for the hairspring, whether it's breathing in and out. The hairspring curve, like the balance, is also patented. And if you look, you can see in unique application of Denis Flageolet's triple parachute. So unlike conventional parachute, which at De Bethune, triple parachute features leaf springs on the edge, and then Inca block at center, because there isn't space for those leaf springs here, Denis uses coil springs, much like the suspension of a car. Same effect, a pronounced and phenomenal, sometimes even athletically viable, by that I mean tennis and golf proof shock protection system, but in a much more confined space than the leaf spring version. This is a very cool watch, and you can see they sweat the details. We have that two-tone titanium case and the two-tone titanium buckle with the pin fired and the buckle polished. Really cool. Greubel Forsey. What hasn't been said about Greubel Forsey? This is one of their earliest models and one of their best. The Tourbillon 24 seconds. It is the 24-second tourbillon launched in 2007, only 3 years after the foundation of the brand. The idea here is instead of two tourbillon regulators, one at 60 seconds, one at 4 minutes, this is just a single manic 24-second tourbillon inclined at 25 degrees. So by spinning the tourbillon as fast as they possibly could, they made it more suitable as a regulating organ on the wrist. So a traditional pocket watch tourbillon can turn very slowly, but the more dynamic the surface on which it is mounted, such as a wrist, the fastest the tourbillon has to rotate if it's to have any chance of canceling out the effect of gravity. So that's what's going on here. It also just looks cool. And because the tourbillon cannot be used as a seconds reference, there is a running seconds dial within the dial. By the way, the dial here, although silvered, solid gold. The case too. You can see there's a little window in the profile, so you can appreciate both the dynamism and the finish of that 25-degree inclined 24-second tourbillon, free-sprung with an overcoil. It's a fairly chatty watch. You can hear it in a quiet room. 3 days of power reserve via twin barrels. There's a power reserve scale. You can see that it is made of white gold. The case is made of rose gold. The lugs have a fairly complex inflection to them that's often missed when people just look at pictures of these things online. One element that's become a Greubel Forsey styling signature, the fully rounded and mirror-polished bridge. And here we have that for the Tourbillon. You can even see that the little pylons on which it's mounted have been beautifully decorated. They're sort of a hyperboloid shape rather than a straight column. On the wrist, it's big, and it wears about as you'd expect, at 52 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. I could wear this watch, but it would fill out my wrist. So if your wrist is 16 centimeters circumference or larger, game on. Any smaller, there are smaller Greubel Forsey watches. I recommend Signature 1 if you have a smaller wrist. Strap is an interesting piece. In 2021, Greubel Forsey, for a number of reasons, decided to phase out animal straps, and this was the result. So, if you want to save the animals and be kind, it's humane on that basis. But if you just don't care about those things, you may also be happy to know that this plant and synthetic-based strap features a supple suede lining that feels fantastic, and because it is synthetic and not animal-based, it's particularly resilient to sweat, moisture, grime. It is long-wearing and extremely durable, so that means less strap replacements for you. Everyone wins. It's got a sueded, soft, nubuck-like aesthetic and feel, and then we get a double folding clasp, which, believe it or not, isn't universal on Greubel Forsey watches, but here we do get that full folding clasp. And on the back, you can see they really gild the lily with frosted bridges, rhodium-plated German silver, and then golden chaton cups. These are all nods to the way pocket watches would have been made in Greubel Forsey's hometown of La Chaux-de-Fonds back in the 19th century. So instead of Côte de Genève, we have frosted bridges, but whereas this would have been done with acid back in the day, well, that's a nasty kind of material to work with in the workshop. So for everyone's sake, Greubel Forsey uses a wire brush, which is very similar to the brush you use to clean off your barbecue grill. So those stiff steel bristles are dabbed down vertically, and because they are so hard and stiff, they create this fine granular structure. Now, nickel, copper, zinc, that's what these bridges are made of, but to give them a little bit of a livelier pop, they rhodium plate them. You can also see that the wheels are internally beveled, which is a supremely intricate operation, and then we have inward angles all over the place on bevels that are a mile wide, mirrored, and truly hand finished. This movement has two barrels. They're called fast barrels. They make one turn every 3.2 hours. The idea is to create a flatter torque curve. You can also appreciate that we have a solid gold plate right here, Greubel Forsey, satinated on the top, beveled on its flanks. Note the presence of both fired blued screws as well as mirror polished screws, all of them with chamfered slots and circumference. And then you could appreciate, too, the different planes of focus. We have the frosting, we have the beveling, we have circular Côte de Genève, we have solarization on the barrel covers, and engine turning on the base plate. And this whole movement is 36.4 millimeters in diameter, a big movement to fill out this case. That movement by itself is bigger than a standard Rolex Datejust. Let's get close to the regulator one last time and appreciate just how frenetic it is. No part, no matter how small, is overlooked from a decorative standpoint. And finally, what I consider to be the most sublime watch ever made, my personal grail, my personal exit watch, Olympus for me, the last watch I would ever want, and the timepiece for which I pine and likely always will. But this is the 2006 Bethune DB Digitale, the DBD, designed to reference vintage pocket watches and pendant watches. It uses the case of the 2005 DBS, but with a digital display of time and calendar inspired by Cartier, Audemars Piguet, and Breguet watches of the first third of the 20th century. So only 39 of these were made from 2006. And they were split over 4 variants, 2 of which were rose gold with a anthracite and a silver dial, 2 of which were white gold with a silver dial and an anthracite dial. And so this variant right here, white gold with the anthracite dial, one of only 9 made. And it wears really nicely. It's only about 46.2 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip and 42.6 from side to side. So unlike other Bethune watches I've loved, like the DB28 Digitale, this one actually fits on my wrist. And you can see just how nicely it does fit on my wrist. A beautiful watch, and I could see how some people might think it looks like a tombstone or a bathroom scale, but if you love history and you think for even a moment about the intricacy and complexity of the mechanism necessary to make this display possible, it is an intellectual appeal as much as a romantic one. And you could see that it is a monoblock case. Everything loads through the back. The bezel and the mid case are all one piece. This was also the beginning of Bethune experimenting with articulated lugs, as we've got one conventional lug here and then one hinged lug. Absolutely beautiful. Ardoise anthracite dial with Côte de Genève. It is actually not a dial. If you want to be really strict here, what you're looking at is part of the movement, because we have gems that act inset as the pivot points for the discs. So we've got an inline simple calendar, which means 5 corrections per year, scrolling minutes, and then jumping hours. And you can see how the jump hour system works. And it will advance the calendar in sync. Though if you don't have the patience, by the way, look at this bespoke crown. Knurling, drilling, screw down for security. They thought of everything. A watch of beautiful symmetry. And then on the reverse side, the patented spherical moon phase. First of all, the blue cosmos behind this moon is fired blue, mirror-polished grade 5 titanium. Bethune has a proprietary process for firing titanium. You could see dippers here, you could see Orion, the constellations, and then this spherical moon phase, which is 1/2 blued steel, 1/2 white palladium. When set, it has a 122-year adjustment interval, just like a perpetual calendar moon phase. This sphere starts as a white sphere with a steel half and a palladium half. It is then heated over a flame and a bed of metal shavings, and the steel turns blue, the palladium stays white. Inside, the caliber 2044, twin barrels, manual wind, self-adjusting barrels. You cannot accidentally overwind it, though Bethune claims 6 days for this movement back in the day. I think with the inline calendar and the jump hour, 4 to 5 is more realistic, but it has triple parachute shock protection, a titanium and platinum patented Bethune balance, and Bethune's patented hairspring curve. A supremely desirable watch that represents the absolute limit. This is my favorite watch in my favorite variant, the white gold anthracite dial version. It will never be on my wrist, but it could be on yours. If my dream and yours look the same, reach out. Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.